to this question. It's a very important question. If I make $80 in 8 hours, how much am I getting paid?
$10 an hour.
Okay. If I make $70 in 7 hours, how much am I getting paid?
10 an hour.
So what is my constant?
$10 an hour.
$10 an hour. Let's say I work 5 hours. How much should I get paid?
5 hours. I'm at 5.
No, if I work 5 hours, I should get paid $50 because I make $10 an hour. So I'm going to say this again because this is what we're learning today. This is called a constant of proportionality, but it's something that you will already know. Like I'm saying with money. If I get $80 for 8 hours, 80 divided by 8 is $10. That's my constant. If I work 70 hours or $70 for 7 hours, 70 divided by 7 is $10. That's my constant. And so my constant is $10 because that's my pay rate. If I work 5 hours, 10 times 5 is 50. So I get paid $50 for 5 hours. That is my constant, is 10. So two quantities are proportional if the ratio between the quantities is equal. So we're going to kind of tie in our proportions from yesterday along with a constant of proportion. And the word constant, what does the word constant mean?
Rapidly. Going on and on.
Repeatedly at the same rate. So constant is when something is happening over and over and over again at the same rate. Okay, so I am constantly telling you all to be quiet or do what you're told to do because we don't follow directions. You all constantly don't follow directions. That's my constant, something I'm doing over and over and over again. That's the same. So we're going to start with this first one, and it's going to tie in what we did yesterday. So it says Mario travels 180 miles in 2.5 hours. If Mario travels at the same rate, how far can Mario travel in 5 hours? So I want you all to set up a proportion real quick, like we did yesterday. What the whole day about was yesterday was how to set up proportions. So I want you to use that first sentence as your first fraction. First sentence, first fraction. So take the first two numbers and make them a fraction. All right, so you should have put, we're not solving it yet. You should have put 180 over 2.5 because that was the first sentence as your first fraction. Now here's my question. What is the label on the 180? Miles. So that's miles over, what's the label on the 2.5? Hours. Now, here's my question. How far can they travel in 5 hours? So when I put the 5 on the top or the bottom? Bottom, because I put hours on the bottom of the other one, so hours go on the bottom of the other one. All right, then I'll cross multiply. So 180 times 5, 500 equals 2.5x. Divide by 2.5. And I find that in 5 hours they went 360 what?
Hours.
No, read the labels. Miles.
How do you get 500?
900. I thought you said 5. Sorry.
How do you get?
I don't have a calculator, so I was just trusting. I thought you said 500. Not sorry, 900. So 360 miles. So that's the skill that we've been working on for like 2 or 3 days now. Okay, so part 2 says, using the information about Mario's rate, complete the table below. So we just said from up here that if he drove 2.5 hours, how many miles did he go? Right here it tells you 180. And then we just found that if he travels 5 hours, how far did he go? 360. All right, I want you all to use the same proportion, and I want you all to find 7.5. So you might just have to put it off to the side somewhere. Okay, so you might just have to come up here and do 180 over 2.5 equals.
It's just adding. We have to do a show the work. Don't prove it for me yet. Okay. Let's go to the nurse. No, go to the nurse. Ah.
I want you just to find the 7.5 hours is what you should be finding. You can just stop there. We're going to talk about something. All right. So you should have done 180 times 7.5 and got 1350 equals 2.5x. Divide by 2.5. And you find that he went 540 miles. So 540 goes there. Now, Seamus, tell them what you discovered.
That it's going up by 2.5, so you can just keep adding 180. Over and over and over and over.
Is that what you're going to say? All right, so what Seamus and Ethan discovered is, look, 2.5 to 5, they went up by 2.5, right? And then from 5 to 7.5, they went up 2.5. From 7.5 to 10, they went up 2.5. And from 10 to 12.5, they went up 2.5. So let's look at the miles. 180 to 360 plus 180. 360 to 540 plus 180. 540 plus 180. 720. Look, I don't have to do a proportion for that one because I found that they're changing at a constant rate, so I can just extend the pattern. 720 plus 180 is 900. So what I did was I just added 180 to find that the rest of the pattern follows, that they're just adding 180 miles for every 2.5 hours that they go.
I think I know what's happening.
Okay, hold on. Now, the question is, how many miles does he go in 1 hour? And there's a couple different ways to find this. First way that you can find it is what we've been doing the past few days. You can set up a proportion and do your 180 over 2.5x over 1. Or, Seamus, is there another way that you found it?
You can just divide 180 by 2.5 and
Yep.
60 by 5.
Or you could just divide the miles by the hours. Okay, so what he's saying is you could take 180 and divide it by 2.5 and find that he is going 72. What would be the label on this? Miles per hour. And even if you use a different one, so right now I want everybody to pick up their calculator, and I want you to take 720 divided by 10. Right here, so take 72 and divide it by 10. 72. Take 900 and divide it by 12.5. 72, because 72 is his constant speed. Just like we talked about at the beginning, my pay rate was $10. You all were taking my pay divided by my hours to find my pay rate. We took his miles divided by his hours to find his constant rate of miles per hour, which leads us into what a constant of proportionality is. Okay, the constant of proportionality is the value of the ratio between the proportional quantities. So what that means is K, which K stands for the constant of proportionality, that's what that K stands for, is Y divided by X. So this is very, very, very important. So make sure you write that down in your notes. It's very important. So to find the constant of proportionality, we always take the Y divided by the X. And it should be constant throughout the whole thing, just like in that last table up there. Every time that I took the miles and divided by the hours, I got 72 because it was constant. Okay, so number 4 says examine the table below and describe the patterns that are true. Okay, so it says on A, how do you know that the number of feet is proportional to the number of inches? Well, we don't know that yet. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to finish the table. And the table says that we're going to take Y divided by X. So what column is the Y, does it say?
Inches.
Inches, and what column is the X? Feet. So we're going to take inches divided by feet. So I'm going to take 12 divided by 1, which is 12. And I'm going to do that for all of them. And if they're all the same, then that's how we know the constant of proportionality. That's how we know that they're all the same. They're all constant. So the next one, I'm going to take 24 divided by 2, which is 12. I'm going to take 36 divided by 3, which is 12. I'm going to take 48 divided by 4. Guess what? 12. And then 60 divided by 5 is also 12. So it says, how do you know that the number of feet is proportional to the number of inches? And the way that I know that is because all the ratios of Y over X equal 12. So every single ratio that I did, all the Y's divided by X's, they all equal 12. That's how I know that they are proportional. They're constant. Now, the second question goes back to what I said at the beginning of class. If I get $80 for 8 hours, how much do I get? $10 per hour. If I work 7 hours for $70, how much money am I getting per hour? $10. Raymond, if I work 20 hours, how much money should I get? If I work 20 hours, how much money would I get, you all, since you have paying attention? 200. How'd you figure that out?
It was 20 times 10.
20 times 10. You took my constant pay, my $10, and you multiplied it by my hours. That's how you can find something that you don't know once you know the constant. So I know that the constant is 12. So if I said, if I have 10 feet, how many inches do I have? So if I put a 10 here to extend my What's the constant of proportionality? What's our number that we got? 12, so we would get 120. 120, because listen to me if you're not understanding where I'm getting this from. The constant is 12, so that means that every time that they do something, they're multiplying it by 12. 1 times 12 is 12. 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 12 is 36. 4 times 12 is 48. 5 times 12 is 60, because that's what the constant of proportionality is 12. So I can multiply 10 by 12 to find that that's 120. So it says, using X, the number of feet, how do you find Y, the number of inches? You multiply X by the constant 12. So you wanting to make sure you're writing this word for word in your notes. That's why we're going over it. Got that pencil. All right, everyone, flip it over. All right, so when we were talking about Y, we're talking about the Y values. When we talk about X, we're talking about the X values. And the K is that constant of proportionality. A big word. Whew. I think that sounds right. Yes. It makes it sound smart.
Yeah. Proportionality?
Yeah.
What?
So that K, like we said on the other side, that K is that ratio of Y divided by X. So that gives us our constant of proportionality, where I take the Y values, I divide them by X, and that should give me that same number over and over and over again, that constant. Okay, so on number 5, it says apply your understanding of the constant proportionality to the questions below. So it says, while training for a marathon, Keith's watch recorded how many calories he burned at each mile marker. Today, the data is shown below. So this table talks about his miles and his calories burned. Now, here's something that I don't know if you all know or not. In a table like this, where is the X value always? On top. Good, okay, yes. So the X value is always on top, the Y value is always on the bottom. So if you didn't know that, I'd definitely make sure I write that down and star it. So it wants to know in part A, is the number of calories proportional to the number of miles? So they want to know, are all of my Y divided by X's the same?
Yes.
So you can just use your calculator for this, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have your calculator, you're going to take Y divided by X. So I'm going to take 117 divided by 1, and I get 117. I'm taking 234 divided by 2, and I got 117. You want to make sure you check them all, though, because what if they try to throw you a wrench and throw one in there that's not? Okay, so I'm going to take 351 and divide it by 3. That's 117. I'm going to take 468 and divide by 4. And guys, you can just do this on your calculator. You don't have to write it out like I am. And then 585 divided by 5, that's also 117. So all of the ratios equal the same number. So all the ratios, Y to X equal 117. So yes, I guess I should put yes then. Yes. All the ratios Y over X equal 117. All right, so it says the next day, Keith ran 7.5 miles. How many calories did he burn? Just like we talked about before, if my constant was $10 per hour and I worked 5 hours, 10 times 5 is 50. Like on the other one, the constant of proportionality was 12. So when we had 10 feet, 10 times 12 gave me 120 inches. So what is my constant of proportionality? What's my constant? 117. So I'm going to take 117 and I'm going to multiply it by the number of miles that he ran. So 7.5. So we get 877.5. And what would the label be? Don't breathe into question. How many calories? So calories. There, you go put calories burned. All right, and so what was the constant of proportionality? 117, because that's the number that they all repeatedly had in that ratio. And when you have a constant of proportionality, I don't know why this isn't in the notes here, but an equation for a constant of proportionality will always be y equals kx. So put that down and star it. Put that down and star it. The part that I starred. Star. So what was my constant of proportionality? 117. So my equation is y equals 117x. All right, I want you all to try this one right here. You probably need a calculator if you don't have one. So it's asking you to fill in the table, and they want to know what the constant of proportionality is and put it on that line K. So find all your ratios of y over x. Y divided by 6, or y divided by x. Yeah, so in a table like this, the x is always on the left, the y is always on the right. I know, just do that one, that first one that I start. All right, so I take 6 divided by 1.5 and I get 4. I do 16 divided by 4 and I get 4. 22 divided by 5.5 and I get 4. And 30 divided by 7.5 and I get 4. So what is your constant of proportionality? 4. Now, here's a question that's not on here. Okay, what would your equation be?
Y equals kx.
But what's k?
4.
4. So if I said, what is the equation for the constant of proportionality? We would say y equals 4x.
Oh, so you want us to put that down?
I was just asking, just to see if you know that. Why did I go over this whole problem with your face like? Yeah, it's only, no, this right here. Yeah.
All of them?
No, it's only a front.
Okay. Thank God.
Frank, why did I go over a whole problem and your whole paper's like on that? The whole thing. I know, but I did the whole paper. Like the whole top.
Wait, you did the whole entire bottom too?
No.
Oh, that's a surprise.
All right, these two homework problems. Shh. Guys, these two homework problems are very similar to number 1 and 5 combined. So I'm going to start us off on the first one. Okay? Shh. Let me pull it up on here. All right, everybody, we're going to look at the board. All right, so it says use the situation below to complete the table and answer the question. So it says a gym employee is paid monthly. After working for 3 months, he earned $4,500. To determine how much he will make over a 6-month period, create the table below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the table. And I see the 3. And how much did he make in 3 months? $4,500. Okay, that tells me right there, 3 months, $4,500. Now, let's find his ratio, his Y over X. So I'm going to take that 4,500 and divide it by 3, and I get 1,500. So that must mean that 1,500 is his monthly, his constant of proportionality. So here's my question. How much would he make in 1 month?
1,500.
1,500 to 1,500, because that's that ratio. Because I'm using this right here. So that will help you fill in the rest of this. So that should get you started. Don't tell people your answer, but that should get you started.